Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. Okay. So all over the news right now, all over social media is the news about the Equifax data breach settlement. Okay. And really, I had not seen it. All I kept seeing was people talking about this $125, $120. I mean, I saw it everywhere. So I decided to, come from under my rock a little bit and, really kind of dig into what's going on. But one of my colleagues, Courtney Richardson, the Ivy Investor, I highly recommend that you follow her, the Ivy Investor. She wrote a great article yesterday, and I wanted to share that with you today. The link to her article is in the comments. For my YouTube viewers, it will be in the description. Also, how you can check your eligibility, that will also be in the description and in the comments. So getting to Courtney's article, which I think it is great. It's just a great overall explanation, putting everything in plain English of how, what happened, how it happened, and all that stuff. So what happened is, this is Courtney's article. Equifax agreed to pay $575 million as part of its settlement with the FTC, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and all 50 states concerning its 2017 data breach. The settlement includes $300 million to consumer funds that will provide protection and compensation to 147 million affected consumers. The settlement also includes a provision that if Equifax's initial $300 million is insufficient, then an additional amount of 125 million will be added. So all in all, Equifax could pay $700 million, $425 million to Consumer Fund, and $175 million to states, District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and $100 million to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Okay, so just to remind you of what happened. Okay, Equifax had this huge data breach. Okay, and 147 million consumers, their personal data was breached. Okay. So, and what it says is a vulnerable version of Apache Struts, which is an open source MVC framework. This is I need to go get a dictionary stuff for creating elegant Java web applications. And it was used in Equifax's dispute portal. And it was opened by hackers to the breach. So although Equifax received notification of the vulnerability in March of 2017, it did not address the breach adequately. So in the summer of 2017, Equifax identified the suspicious traffic on the portal. It blocked the traffic, but after noting additional suspicious traffic, the portal was ultimately taken offline. They hired a forensic consultant and, to determine the extent of the security issue. Now, here's something I want to point out to you. We're talking about this huge company, Equifax, but listen to all that they're doing, because in this age of being online and digital marketing and all of that stuff, if you are not taking steps to protect your users' data, where they're buying from you, in the finance and tax, especially for us, if we're not taking steps to protect users' data, this could be us too. This hiring this forensic consultant. I mean, Equifax is a multi-billion-dollar company, so they got this kind of money. But when you're talking about small business owners, you might not have this kind of money. So if you don't have some data insurance, get some, okay? Like this is not something to be played with, because when you're talking about data security and all of that, we are all vulnerable to this, because if a company, if these big companies can get hacked, what about little old us? So you really have to take these steps to protect yourself, okay? Now, so it goes on to talk about, the article talks about what was exposed. You're talking about names, dates of birth, social security numbers, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses, payment card numbers, and expiration dates. Now, especially, and for this quick segment right here, I'm going to talk to my tax pros for a moment. When you think about that, this is all information that we get from our clients. Names, birth dates, social security numbers. We get people pay us with credit card numbers. We get all of that information. If you do not take the steps necessary to protect this data, you can be Equifax, okay? And please don't act like it can't be you. So in July, the FTC brought an action to obtain permanent injunction relief, restitution, that's payback, and other relief against Equifax under the FTC Commission Act, the Safeguards Rule, Graham-Leach Bliley Act, alleging that Equifax failed to take simple steps that could have prevented the breach. Graham-Leach Bliley, I know that tax pros, go read it, okay? I'm talking to tax pros because that's my squad. But if you in tax and finance and you get personal data for all my online sellers, okay, go read that because it can cost. But now, so the proposed settlement between the parties includes 4 years of credit and identity monitoring for affected consumers from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, in addition to $1 million in identity theft insurance and identity restoration services. However, those affected have the option of an alternative $125 reimbursement compensation for out-of-pocket expenses, which include credit monitoring costs incurred as a result of placing or removing a security freeze on a consumer report with any consumer reporting agency, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's where this $125 comes from. You can either get the credit monitoring or you can get the $125. Some people may already have credit monitoring in place. Some may not, but you can take this $125. And so that's where I kept seeing people talking about, woo, this easy, $125, go get your $125. But when you look at the cost of credit monitoring can cost anywhere from $10 to $30 per month. So $30 per month is, roughly $360 per year. Okay, so 125 versus 360. Okay, identity theft insurance ranges from $100 to $360 per year. Okay, now you have the option of taking this $125 or getting $360 a year worth of credit monitoring for 4 years, or identity theft insurance that can range you up to $360, but you jump in to take this $125. May not be the best idea. So according to Javelin Research, 16.7 million Americans were victims of identity fraud in 2017. Now, the FTC reported the median amount of loss to fraud was only $375. That's 3 times the minimum settlement amount. So most people lost about $375, but they're going to compensate you $125 for that. Okay, do the math. Now, here's something that I liked out of Courtney's article. She talked about the median loss, where most people talk about average. And if you know statistics, and Lord Jesus, I hated statistics, but this is one thing I took from statistics. There's a difference between median and average. Average is everybody lumped in. Y'all like grade averaging, right? You learn how to average your grades out in school. And so when you lump everybody in together, the average loss is $28.95. But that doesn't really tell the story. The median is where most people fall. So when people talk about the average cost of this or the average earnings of this, average is not a good number. You want the median number. Like where do most people fall? So like if you have, wait, my brain is not moving that fast, so hold on. So if you've got somebody that's making $150,000 a year, and then you've got somebody making $20,000 a year, the average salary is $85,000 a year between the two of them. But that is not telling the story, is it? No, because you got somebody that's making a whole bunch of money and somebody that's not making any. Okay, so that's why the average number of anything is misleading. You want the median number of things. Okay, that was just some extra. So, so the median loss was $375, but yet and still they're only offering you $125 cash. All right. So, according to the Identity Theft Resources 2018 end of year data breach report, there were 1,244 reported breaches and 446,515,334 sensitive records with identifying information exposed. That's a whole bunch of numbers. So, if you already have this credit monitoring going on and you're already doing that, okay, great, take your 125. But if you don't have this type of credit monitoring or identity theft insurance going on in your life, then this may be a better option for you, because it's not the data breach, it's not the identity theft that's the problem. Is when you have to go through proving that you are who you say you are. It's going through the process of having to fix that when you are the victim of these things. And that is a very long and tedious process to have to go back and prove that, number one, you didn't do whatever these fraudulent people did. And number two, that you really are this person and somebody else stole your identity. That in and of itself is a freaking nightmare. So it would behoove you that if you don't have credit monitoring, to go back and, if you haven't done anything with this yet, get the credit monitoring. You definitely want that. Get the insurance, because at the end of the day, if you wind up getting, if you wind up with your identity stolen, and then you've got to go through this process, it's going to cost you. And for business owners, okay, you think about this is something that I found out when I was getting my my data security insurance, because thank God it came with an hour consultation with an attorney. And this is what I learned: when you have a data breach, you have to notify all of your contacts, and all of your contacts are going to be people that bought from you, people that you talk to, the phone numbers that you have, the email addresses that you have. Now you think about that. If you think about every person that has given you some of their information, right? Whether it's a phone number, email address, credit card number, think about the sheer number of people, of contacts you have in your phone. If you had to provide credit monitoring for all of those people, what would that cost you? This is what data insurance does. Okay, it helps to protect you. So for my business owners, if you sell stuff online, for my tax pros, for my finance squad, because we really do get this sensitive information. So we have to go through the steps of protecting ourselves even further than anyone else. Because we not only can we be fined with this other, like Equifax here, what would happen to your business? Equifax will survive this because they're big enough to survive this. What would happen to your business if this was you? If you had to pay $125 to every single contact that you have, what would that number look like? So from the consumer side, go and check to see if you were affected. If you were and you don't have credit monitoring, I encourage you to take the credit monitoring versus $125. If you already got the credit monitoring, okay, go get your $125 and get your whole entire life. But the main thing that you want to make sure of is that you are monitoring your credit reports. You need to look at your credit reports and make sure there's nothing funky on there. You should be looking at your credit report at least once a year. Okay? We're not talking about credit score. We're talking about what's actually on your credit report, to make sure that that there's not something on there that really doesn't belong there. Okay? So that's it for today's episode of Home Biz Tax Talk. Go get y'all's life and figure out this data security, y'all. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock ish, and you can come right here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.